As I gotta shut the door. Holy mackerel! Gotta shut the door. Can't be screaming in the house at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, gotta shut the door. There you go. Door is shut. That's it. And now I can say, welcome aboard, everybody, on a lovely Wednesday morning. And whoa, what a game we were privileged to see last night. Tremendous World Series performance by the Nationals and by the Houston Astros, of course. And let's kick it right on. And I just got to tell you, just to let you know, Andy is feeling much better. She had, as we mentioned before, she had contacted a mild case of Bell's palsy, and she has been resting under the doctor's orders, and that's what she's doing. So we'll be heading back to New York a little earlier than expected, but still, this is a 2-month road trip that has been fantastic, led, of course, by the great Unholy Toledo. Only a couple of weeks ago, yeah, we forget that we were on the road for 3 weeks right before we took off on this 4-month journey. So to cut it short a little bit, let me tell you something. It's the greatest time I've ever had, and I thank you all. That's for sure. Unfortunately, won't be able to get to Florida and see Doug Boyle. Okay, but we could get to Buffalo and see DK Luce. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, getting right onto it, the Nationals have faced elimination in 4 games this postseason. They trailed in all 4 of those games that they had faced elimination and came back to win all 4. How about that? They're the first team in the history of Major League... Oh, there she is. Good morning, sweetheart. And how are you today? Holy mackerel. They trailed in all 4. They came back to win all 4. And they're the first team in the history of Major League Baseball to have 4 comeback wins when facing elimination in a single postseason game. So that's, I'll tell you, got to give these Nats. I'll get to the controversy in just a second. I'm not going to avoid it. Max Scherzer against Zach Greinke tonight for all the marbles. It'll be the first Game 7 in the history of the World Series between 2 starters who have already won a Cy Young Award. How about that one? First time. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how that works out, okay? So here we go. Game 7 tonight. Home teams are 57 wins and 60 losses all time in a winner-take-all postseason. It's the first World Series where the road team has won each of the first 6 games. Remember, no team. There has not been a team in Major League Baseball that has won a World Series without winning a home game. So many this is the coolest thing ever. The home field advantage goes right out the window. With the Nats winning Game 6 in Houston, it's the first postseason series in Major League Baseball history, NBA history, NHL history, in which the road team has won the first 6 games. Thanks for the coffee, and away we go. All right? Yes, the Nationals won. Tonight is Game 7. Zach Greinke against Max Scherzer going tonight. So we'll see. Road teams have won each of the last 8 World Series games, extending a record that was already set at 7 straight. The last home team to win a World Series game was the L.A. Dodgers in 2018, Game 3. And that game, if you remember, that game took 18 innings. The Nationals and the Astros separated by just 1 run in this World Series. The Astros with 28 total runs so far. The Nationals with 27. The last World Series to be separated by 1 or 0 runs entering Game 7 was in 2016. And before that, 1967. So not only is this game close in terms of wins, but in terms of runs, everywhere. What's the matter? What am I doing? Yeah. I'm I'm putting balls in play. That's right. I was here July 27th. That's right. So our trip really started July 27th, and here it is now. It is October 30th. Holy cow! Yeah, we were there July 27th. Took a couple of weeks off, and that's the story. All right, I'll get to the controversy in just a second, as Andy has decided to scratch my back in the middle of a podcast. All right, so look, the early controversy started when Bregman carried his bat to first base. Now, Dave Martinez says they didn't like that. Okay? Then he said he didn't like it when Soto carried his bat to first base. And he said that's bull dinky and poppycock from the word go. They carried his bat to first base. It wasn't even a big deal. I mean, either one of them. You could tell that Soto was doing it in retaliation to what Bregman did. But if they're going to get so sensitive that he carried his bat, he meant to hand it to the first base umpire, and they just didn't get a good handoff. But give me a break. You going to talk about that? Soto said his words were, "It's pretty cool. I want to do that too." That's what he said when he saw it, and then he got the opportunity. He said, "If I get the opportunity, I'm going to do the same thing," and he did. So that was Soto's reaction on Alex Bregman's bat drop at first. He didn't really drop the bat. It wasn't like a flip. So technically, all right, now here's the thing. On the play with Trey Turner running down the first base line and interference, technically, you could justify the call. I'll read you the rule in just a second. But I think common sense says you can't actually make that call. And certainly not in the World Series game that could send one of these teams home. I will tell you, I don't really have the information, but I haven't seen another situation where that call was made at any point during the season. And to make it for the first time even though the rule clearly states, okay, and many umpires insist that the call was correct, but it's an unpopular call. Joe Torre explained Turner was called out not because he was running out of the 45-foot line, but because he interfered with Gurriel catching the ball. Now, that's another situation going on. All right, the ball and Turner did arrive at the same time at the base. That is when Turner and that's when Turner has the right to fair territory. So it's a bad call. Now, MLB says when running the last half of the way to first base while the ball is being fielded in the vicinity of first, the base runner must stay, and here it is, within the 3-foot runner's lane to the right of the foul line unless they are avoiding a player fielding a batted ball. But I don't think this was called, and you can't tell me that this was called at any time during the year. If it was, I'd like to know about it. But if it hadn't been called, you don't wait for the World Series. The correct, look, some say it's the correct call. The runner is only allowed to exit the lane to touch first base. Turner was not in the lane when he stepped towards first base and interfered with Gurriel, so he was not afforded the protection that the lane provides in terms of interfering. It was the correct call based technically on the rule, but when you make a call for the first time, it's tough to say that you make this call. You don't make it in the World Series. And when you look at it, it seemed to be what? It didn't seem to be the right call to make, okay? And the runners during the season either stayed inside the line or the player caught the ball. So Doug, looking for an example, couldn't find it.
Hi, Doug.
Thanks to Doug and Greg and DK Lush and Unholy Toledo for joining me today in the chat room. The Braves, by the way, are going to try to sign Josh Donaldson, re-sign him. It's not a surprise. He had an excellent year for them and remains in good standing. They'll be able to extend him to $17.8 million qualifying offer first, which he will surely decline. But here's a player that you may want to take note of. player whose name you may have heard in the past, Josh Lindblom. Now, as he's drawing interest from a lot of teams after winning the Korean series out there in Korea, he's drawing comparisons to Merrill Kelly. He led the qualifying Korean starters in innings pitched, wins, strikeouts to walks, K to 9, and whip. He had a great year. So etch his name in your kitchen table, Josh Lindblom, okay? Now, as far as Strasburg is concerned, all-time postseason ERA leaders. As starting pitchers with a minimum of 8 starts, you have in the postseason, Christy Mathewson is number 1 with an 0.97 ERA, and Steven Strasburg is number 2 with a 1.56 ERA. And how about that? Strasburg now has 47 strikeouts this postseason, and that's tied for second most in a single postseason all time. And you may recall that Garrett Cole is at that mark as well. The record for strikeouts in a postseason is set in 2001 by Curt Schilling, 56 strikeouts. We talked about that before. Strasburg is the 6th pitcher in postseason history to start 5 team wins in a single postseason. Max Scherzer will look to join that list tonight in Game 7. And Strasburg, with his 1.46 career ERA in the postseason, 165 pitchers have thrown at least 40 postseason innings since earned runs became official in 1913. The only pitchers since 1913 with a lower ERA than Strasburg, Mariano Rivera and Sandy Koufax.
Come on, I wanted to play games.
How about that?
I was going to play trivia, and I was looking at the end.
Andy wants to play trivia while she looks over my shoulder at the answers. So only Mariano Rivera and Sandy Koufax have a lower ERA than Strasburg, okay, with 40 postseason innings.
That's amazing.
That's pretty unbelievable. Steven Strasburg has turned out to be, I remember when we saw Strasburg in the Arizona Fall League, he was the only player who would be walking around wearing his jacket so that people couldn't see his number and couldn't identify him. He had security with him. He was very, good morning to Dr. Z, Zelmo. Morning to Malpal. Thank you, guys. Love you for showing up, keeping me company. We are determined to continue doing podcasts all year. I don't care what city I'm in, what state I'm in. Don't forget, 6 o'clock in the morning, got to get up at 4 to be current. And ain't that easy, but it separates the men from the boys who are able to do it. All right? No question about it. Also, you call it stupidity, okay? So anyway, Carlos Correa says about Strasburg that his curveball has a lot of spin. It almost feels like it's going to hit you in the face. Then it drops in for a strike. His changeup looks like a fastball that comes out of his hand, and then you swing at it, and you're like, damn, you can't hit it.
The late movement. The spin creates the late movement.
The spin creates the late movement.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
You have a lot of spin?
Not now.
Okay. No, Andy's not feeling well, all right? So Carlos Correa really honing in on Strasburg. Through the first 2 innings, it was interesting. Strasburg, through the first 2 innings, did not induce a swinging strike. And I looked it up. It's the first time in 38 starts, regular postseason, that he hasn't had at least one swinging strike through 2 innings pitched. So Strasburg got off to a slow start. He walked 2 batters in his first 31 innings pitched this postseason, and then he goes ahead and he walks Gurriel and Alvarez consecutively with 2 outs in the 4th. So unbelievable how Strasburg came in. At that point, you thought Strasburg was done. Done. With all this going on with Strasburg, how much are we paying for Strasburg next year? Do we think that because Strasburg has been healthy all year, and I brought this question up so many times, because Strasburg has been healthy and pitched so well, are we a little more cautious about drafting him next year, or are we all in on Steven Strasburg? That's the interesting question right there. We're going to be all in on Strasburg, or are we a little, tepid based upon the fact that he's had such a healthy season and law of averages is what we're talking about. So that's what we're thinking about with Steven Strasburg. How much are we bidding on Strasburg in a 260 format mixed league? I'll start the bidding at 23. $23 for Steven Strasburg. Anybody want to go 24? The first 121 hitters faced in this postseason by Strasburg, 2 walks for the first 121 hitters he faced, and then bingo, he walks back-to-back hitters. He also was the first pitcher to toss at least 8 innings on the road when facing elimination in the World Series. And Danny Jackson actually did that in 1985. Strasburg, in his first inning, after the All-Star break, he allowed 2 home runs. And then in the World Series, 2 home runs. So, unbelievable. Justin Verlander, by the way, 10 first-inning runs allowed. Steven Strasburg, 7 runs allowed in total. How about that for a number? And Strasburg has started 4 Nationals wins this postseason. The only pitchers to start 5-team wins in a single postseason: Madison Bumgarner, Chris Carpenter, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, Kurt Schilling, Andy Pettitte, and Scherzer has also started 4 wins. Strasburg, now the only pitchers to record 5 wins in a single postseason, in addition to Steven Strasburg. Now, I'm going to throw this out to the chat room. Who are the only 2 other pitchers to record 5 wins in a single postseason? I will tell you, one is a relief pitcher. How about that? One is a relief pitcher. This is a tough one. I understand that, all right? This is a tough one. And Doug says, if you don't make the call, then you are saying that a base runner was allowing to instigate a collision at first. It was a tough call. I'd like to know, though. Randy Johnson was 1. That's right. Randy Johnson had 5 wins. And who was the other? The other pitcher was a relief pitcher. How about that? And it wasn't Mariano Rivera. This is a tough one, okay? The other pitcher was a relief pitcher, and it's not Mariano Rivera. A former Angel and a former Met. How's that? Okay? The first run, and by the way, Will Harris, first run and home run allowed since August 30th to be exact. Will Harris is having a great year. And when Davey Martinez got ejected, it was the 23rd ejection in the World Series in history, 9th by a manager. No team has ever won a World Series game after its manager got ejected, but the Nationals are 3 outs away from coming until last night. Davey Martinez, first World Series manager to be ejected. Who was the last manager to be ejected? Anybody want to give a shot at that? Randy Johnson, 5 postseason wins. The other one, Francisco Rodriguez, K-Rod. The only other pitchers to record 5 wins in a single postseason. So Dave Martinez is the first manager to be ejected since who? Okay? Since who? Okay? Hall of Famer, by the way. 23rd ejection in the World Series history, 9th by a manager. And Alex Bregman, of course, Bobby Cox is the answer. Let's go back to the chat room, see if anybody got it. Yeah, Randy, Bobby Cox, the other one. Okay, good morning to Malpal. Pretty interesting, right? Bregman's first inning home run was his 10th career home run in the postseason. That makes him the 4th player in franchise history with 10 or more postseason home runs. Springer, Altuve, and Correa have that for the Astros now. The Astros have now scored 18 first-inning runs this postseason. Second most for any team in one postseason. And even on the broadcast last night, they talked about how the Astros are so good early in the game. Alex Bregman homered in the first inning of Strasburg in Game 2. He did the same thing last night. He's the first player ever to hit 2 first-inning World Series home runs off the same pitcher in his career, not in the same season. So, in the history of the World Series, no third baseman had ever driven in 5 runs in a game until Saturday, and now it's happened twice in 3 games, and Anthony Rendon had 5 RBIs last night, tied for the second most by any player in a single game when facing elimination. Addison Russell had 6 RBIs in Game 6 back in 2016. Rendon now has 20 career postseason RBIs. That's the most in franchise history. How about that? And, of course, the big question is, Rendon, where is he going? The most career postseason home runs as a third baseman, Chipper Jones has 11, Bregman with 10, George Brett with 10, and A-Rod with 10. Bregman only has 5 hits in the World Series, but thanks to his grand slam in Game 4, he's driven in 8 runs, and that ties the record for the most RBIs by a third baseman in a World Series. The other third baseman to do it, driving in 8 runs, was who? The other third baseman to drive in 8 runs was who? Happened in 2002. And at 25 years, he is the youngest American League player with 3 home runs in a single World Series since Mickey Mantle did it in 1956. How about that one? How about that one? Okay, Kenny Flamier has joined us. Good morning to Kenny. Kenny Flamier takes the prompt, puts it in his pocket, and comes to the chat room. Kenny, I love you, man. Thank you so much. That's great to have Kenny in the chat room. Terrific. All right. Back to the action, and we're talking about last night's game. What else could we be talking about? Justin Verlander. So the Nationals in games 3, 4, and 5, they had no leads. They were 1 for 21 with runners in scoring position. But in Game 6, they took the lead after 3 hitters, and they were 1 for 1 with runners in scoring position. Verlander, first pitcher in postseason history to start 3 team losses in potential clinchers in a single postseason. And Verlander's team has now lost each of his last 4 starts in a potential series clinching game. That dates back to, 2017, Game 6. That's the longest streak in postseason history. And of course, then you get the narrative that Verlander can't win the big one. Verlander can't win the big one. This could keep him out of the Hall of Fame on the first. But give me a break, Bull Dinky and Poppycock. If you're paying attention, it's his 6th career start in a potential clincher. He hasn't won any, but he has a 3.03 ERA in those games, 47 strikeouts in 38 innings. Sometimes it happens. He's allowed 17 runs in this postseason. 11 have been on home runs. He had that kind of year during the year. He allowed 64 runs all year, and 19 of them were on non-homers. Everything else was a home run. So it's the 10 first-inning runs Verlander has allowed this postseason. That's 2 more first-inning runs allowed by anyone else in a single postseason in Major League Baseball history. He's allowed 8 home runs this postseason. Ties him with 2017 Clayton Kershaw for the most single postseason home runs of all time. And for Adam Eaton, boy, oh boy. Adam Eaton, if you don't know it, he's got this reputation of being a me kind of a player. If he hits 2 more home runs tonight and Washington loses, Adam Eaton will be fine. If he strikes out 5 times and Washington wins, Adam Eaton's going to be ticked off. He won't even join the celebration. So, yeah, that's what I've heard, all right? So it was Adam Eaton's 38th career plate appearance against Justin Verlander. That's the most times he's faced any pitcher in his career, and it was his first home run. That's baseball, right? And until that Victor Robles at bat last night, Verlander also 0 swings and misses on any pitch other than his fastball. You know, they talked about how Verlander was on his game last night, and the truth is he was not on his game. His fastball was lively. Yeah, Troy Glaus is the answer. There you go. Malpal gets it. Tito Luna has joined us. Good morning, Tito. Nice to have you aboard. Tito Luna, the great, I love Tito. I love you guys. Unbelievable. Thank you so much for making me the luckiest guy in town. I mean, really, that's unbelievable. Thank you so much. Nice turnout here in the chat room this morning. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, but I will. I love when people say I can't tell you, and then they tell you. So that's what I just did. So Verlander, again, no swing and misses on any pitch other than his fastball. It took him 17 hitters to get a swing and miss on a slider, and that explains why it took him 75 pitches to get through 4 innings. It wasn't that he just didn't have his stuff. He was at 35 pitches after the first 2 hitters of the 3rd inning. Okay, so by the time he made it through the inning, he had 56 pitches. Eaton and Rendon waited him out 17 pitches. Verlander is 36 years old today. All right, if the Astros win, he'll be the 6th oldest pitcher to start a World Series clinching game. No pitcher, and I don't know if today meant yesterday or today. So no pitcher as old as Verlander has ever had a scoreless start in a World Series clinching game. It's time now to talk about someone who's really gone, I won't say he's gone unnoticed, but George Springer is the 2nd player all time with 6+ walks and 6+ extra base hits in a single World Series. Who was the other one? The other player, 6+ walks, 6+ extra base hits in a single World Series. Name the other player. Springer, 12 games in the World Series. He's batting .354, 7 homers, 13 runs. How about that for George Springer? When he was in the minors stealing 30 bases, hitting 30 home runs, everybody got him, right? Excuse me. I'm coming down with some kind of illness, by the way, so we'll see what happens. Springer, a very underrated player. George Springer, as good as he is still extremely underrated. Not just in Major League Baseball, also fantasy. Juan Soto, the most World Series home runs by a player aged 21 or younger in a single World Series. He's hit 3. And every home run Juan Soto hits this postseason has been off of an all-star. Cole, Kershaw, Rue, Verlander. And Soto has now homered against both Clayton Kershaw, Justin Verlander this postseason. He's the 2nd player all time to homer off 2 different former MVP winners in a single postseason. He also had one of J.D. Martinez last. J.D. Martinez last year did the same thing. Soto's 5th home run this postseason. That's the most home runs by any player 21 or younger in a single postseason. He broke a tie with Miguel Cabrera, who did it in 2003. Soto and Springer, I'm telling you, it's great. Springer will hit, his career numbers, unbelievable. In Game 4, he was 11 for 18 in 2 World Series. 11 for 18, 4 homers, 3 doubles, 6 walks. The Astros had the best record in Major League Baseball this year. Teams with the best regular season record are 12-19 in winner-take-all series games. 12-19 if you have the best record in Major League Baseball. The Astros now have 4 players with 10 or more postseason home runs. Springer, Altuve, Correa, Bregman just joined the list. The only teams with more players to hit 10 or more home runs for their team in the postseason, the Yankees with 11 and the Braves with 5. And the 2018 Boston Red Sox had the best record in Major League Baseball, won World Series 2019. The Astros, the best record in Major League Baseball, they're looking to do the same. The only time since 1969 that the team with the best record won back-to-back years, 75 and 76, the Cincinnati Reds. And finally, let's not forget someone who's really come to the front, Jose Altuve. Altuve's had a fantastic comeback from starting off the season. Many thought he was washed up. 24 hits this postseason, 2 shy of tying Pablo Sandoval, who had 26 hits in 2014 for the most hits in a single postseason. His 45 total bases are only 5 shy of tying, remember David Freese, 2011? And he has reached base in 12 straight postseason games, scored 22 runs. Jose Altuve. It's going to be a hummer and a dinger tonight. It's a hummer and a dinger this morning. I can only tell you sincerely, Greg and DK and Doug and Kenny Flamia and Malpal and Tito Luna and Zelmo and Unholy Toledo, you people have done something for me that's beyond belief. Made every morning that I can't wait to get up. And I thank you all so very much. Andy and I will be heading back shortly. Once again, her situation with the Bell's palsy, she's really doing well. And we're just going to take care of it and upward and onward we go. Thank you, everybody. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you, but I will anyway. I appreciate you all. Thanks very much. See you tomorrow.